Hey everybody, Kazmo here, and this is a breakdown tac view of the mission that I just posted, Mission 1 of what I'm calling Operation Black Tempest, which is more of a narrative campaign. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Hope it's something that continue to do and you guys will continue to watch. But I wanted to show this because I know that taking a 2 to 3 hour mission, breaking it down into a 15-20 minute video, it's hard to understand what's going on conceptually, everything around. So I wanted to show this as a companion video to that mission and allow you to kind of follow along. So the idea here is that we are based up in Kursk, which is way up to the north, so it's a long haul. It was about a 600-mile round-trip mission, but the idea was that we were going to have 2 ships, myself and Salt, head down and do a fighter sweep and then protect the strikers. We're going to have 4 aircraft come in, and then we're going to hit bridges and some ground vehicles down here in this pass. Now the idea was to first hit the tanker, really for no other reason than just some training, hit the tanker. However, for whatever reason, the tanker was going exceptionally slow, which Salt and I discovered as we arrived on scene. I blew right past him. We couldn't get him to obey. We were using Olympus and he started doing weird stuff. And so finally we just decided, screw it. I think we have enough gas to go ahead and execute the mission. And we landed pretty low, but we managed to do the whole mission with the fuel that we had on board. So once we departed the tanker track, this is the part that I really enjoy, is the fact that we're all together. So what I didn't want to have is the fighters come in, clear the airspace, and then let the strikers go in. I wanted all this stuff to happen simultaneously. I thought that was a little bit more sexy. So you can see that our distance here is, it's only a couple miles, and we were kind of rolling straight in. At this point, the AWACS is detecting the MiGs, and we get the first call. So Salt and I turn in towards that and commit, while the strikers just continue straight on into the target area. Now, as you can see, there's quite a bit of distance on these MiGs. We saw that on radar, and so the idea was to shoot at the lead MiG, and then I pushed in on the second. Now, there was some conversation in the cockpit about switching targets, shooting at this lead guy. I'm glad that I did not, because I don't think that would have been worthwhile. One, Salt kills this first guy, but it did make a lot of sense in my brain because I figured this guy was going to turn away once he got shot at, and the second guy was going to continue on. So I just continued to push in, trusting that Salt was going to be able to make the kill on the first guy, and so I fired my missile at the second and continued to push in. However, he managed to do a little fancy maneuvering and outpace my missile and jump down into the mountains. Now, originally Salt wanted me to continue to push in on this guy. However, he was spiking me and we thought he was about to shoot. So I did turn away and link back up with Salt in the turn, just not knowing that this guy had finally turned away. Obviously Monday morning quarterbacking this, I wish I had continued to press in on the guy, but at the time we thought he was going to get a shot off. So had a missile in the air that he eventually did defeat, and we turned back in on him. Now, he did jump down into the mountains, and so we lost sight of him. We lost track of where he was at until we got an AWACS vector and that he was to our north. So Salt turns in, finds that he's relatively close to us, and gets a cheap shot off. At this point, I continue to push in. I don't want to make the same mistake again. I know that this guy's committed on Salt and that he's probably going to take a shot, and so I continue in, really not expecting Salt's shot to impact. Just the tone of his voice told me that he didn't even think it was going to hit. He was just taking a shot and then turning away. I figured this guy was going to continue in hot, so I pushed in, switched up the sidewinders, was ready to merge, and fortunately that missile did hit. But what I like, while all this is going on, we'll kind of back up just a little bit. So as we're engaging these MiGs, the strikers are continuing to push in. They're not holding, they're not staying away. They are continuing in. They're looking for their targets. One set was engaging the bridges, another set was engaging these ground vehicles down here. So they are go ahead and just under our protection, they're going ahead in to hit the targets and start engaging as best they can. Now you'll see this SA-11 pop up. I had a couple triggers set for this mission. Once the enemy's cap the initial pair of MiGs were destroyed, this SA-11 was going to go active. Now, the idea was not that he was necessarily going to be able to engage these guys here, but just kind of give them something to keep them honest, to keep them from just treating this like a just big free-for-all that they could do whatever they want. They had to have something to kind of push them and keep them away. Additionally, the other trigger was the first time that an AIM-120 was in the airspace. It was going to launch these two MiGs that were on strip alert from Tbilisi. So these two MiGs were going to taxi out and take off. Now, I knew this was going to happen, obviously, because I created the mission, but I didn't really test it in the sense that I didn't know how long it was going to take for them to get there. I figured they'd get there pretty quick. They actually got there a lot quicker than I thought they would, which worked out for me. It was kind of fun. Keep it a little bit interesting for me, who, you know, obviously I'm building the missions, I know what's going on, but trying to keep it a little bit mysterious is makes it fun for me. So we've engaged these MiGs, the strikers are on the objective, and at this point Salt and I link back up and pick back up on our scan. Again, those MiGs have already taken off and they're already getting close. So this was kind of cool. We turned back in, and I remember looking at the radar and seeing the strikers, and while Schnaz was kind of moving the cursor around is when I saw a little blip just past the strikers, and that's when we realized that those MiGs were coming in. As you can see, they're not even in range, or they're not even being picked up by the AWACS yet, so we just happened to pick them up. And so at this point we commit, and this was probably the coolest shot of the night, is when Salt and I kind of came in together abreast and both fired at the same time and turned away. Again, there was a lot of space between these two MiGs, just like last time, so we didn't want to engage one and push in on the other, though probably in retrospect that would have worked out just fine as well. But we both fired our missiles, and the second guy continued on. He kind of did some crazy stuff where we couldn't really tell what he was planning to do. It looked like he was leaning towards me, and then he kind of turned back in and looked like he was going to lean towards Salt, but then he turned back away again. So we didn't have a firm understanding of what this guy was up to. But taking a look at the initial MiG, we did kill him. Now, luckily it was my missile that hit him, which made me feel pretty good because it was the only kill I got from the night. So at this point, Salt and I both turn away. We both thought that this guy was leaning on us. I thought the last time I'd seen him that he was starting to turn back in towards Salt. So at this point is when I figured I'm thinking in my mind that this guy was actually somewhere over here. I thought he was a lot closer to Salt and he was pushing in on him. You can see that he's still way back here, but I'm gonna go ahead and turn in early thinking that he's right there. We pick him up and he turns right back into me after I take a shot at him. So he shoots, we're getting pretty close, so I turn outbound with that missile that doesn't look like it was actually tracking me. It was just kind of a cheap shot on both of our accounts. However, this does create enough time for Salt to make a recommit just past me. He picks him up, gets two shots off, flies right over that missile, and gets the kill. Now, they were pretty close when they engaged. Once again, Salt called that out. I knew that, so that's why I'm doing this hard recommit, thinking that this guy once again is pushing in on his tail. Luckily I could see the impact, I could see the fireball, so I knew that he was out of the fight, so I turned back in to link up. So as you can see, what's going on beneath us, however, as we're engaging these MiGs, is the strikers are continuing to finish up on their targets. They're dropping whatever bombs they have left, and then they start to egress while we are creating space and providing security by engaging that last MiG. So all in all, it went exactly as I wanted it to thematically, where we had stuff going on simultaneously. The guys in the strikes were telling us how they were looking up and seeing us overhead and seeing the missiles going back and forth. So it added a lot of realism, a lot of excitement for them. And it was fun, you know, just for us to try to create that space, knowing that we had something that we had to protect other than ourselves. It wasn't overwhelming. It would have been nice maybe to add a couple more fighters, but you know, I'm always hesitant to add too much to something because then you make it way too chaotic. And I just don't like, I like there to be some threat, but I don't necessarily want a whole bunch of people getting shot down because it just kind of takes away from the fun aspect, which is ultimately why we do this stuff. Plus, within context of the squadron, I wanted guys to be able to get some training. I wanted them to be able to do all of the things that they could. Take off, land, hit targets, do some tanking, do some coordination. You know, there's no training involved in getting shot down, so you have to find that sweet spot, and doing some of these triggers allowed that for me. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you're enjoying the narrative campaign. If you are, please leave a like. I cannot stress that enough. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you.